Prepare yourself for List Off, the gaming podcast where your hosts, Brian and Ryan, rank the things they love. 3, 2, 1, List Off!
This week, you've unlocked another podcast and now can proceed further into the world of List Off because we're talking our top 5 Metroidvanias. And it's an extra special episode because we are joined once again with Metroidvania enthusiast Dave from Tales from the Backlog. How's it going, Dave?
Hey, guys. Yeah, going great. It's good to be on the show.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. And I guess not again, but there is a episode that we all are on your show, and that's coming up. So yeah. We are very excited about that. I know you teased it on Twitter and elsewhere, so I feel like we can say that.
It's not a secret anymore.
Okay,
yeah, we can
right.
say that.
Right.
So February 16th, I believe it is, Death's Door, we'll be talking about together on Tales from the Backlog. So if anyone out there wants to hear the three of us talk more and more, check out that episode, February 16th.
Yeah, if our episodes aren't long enough, that one's a tad longer than ours normally. But It's funny. It was such a pleasure. We recorded that prior to this, obviously, but it was such a pleasure to come on. And then I see your post, and somebody else got to do Dark Souls, which it cuts deep, Dave. It cuts deep.
Yeah, you know? I know.
It's
I know
right.
that one's. I'm in my head. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to like pick somebody to be on my Elden Ring episode someday.
Right.
And I know there's gonna be like 35 people that want to do that. So
it's the same for Dark Souls, I'm sure. Like, who wouldn't want to do that game, right? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, well, we were super happy to be on that. I had just finished when I think we all kind of decided to do that podcast. So that was a fun one and one that made my Game of the Year list. So super fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about our top 5 Metroidvanias. But before we do that, do we want to talk about some of the games that we've been playing this week? Dave, do you want to take it away? What have you played?
Sure. I have been playing 2 games that I'm just like completely absorbed in. And the first one, I'm on like full Elden Ring hype mode.
Yeah.
So I've been playing Dark Souls 3 again. And I played Bloodborne several months ago, and I wanted to play something to like get me in the, muscle memory and frame of mind to play Elden Ring. And so I started up Dark Souls 3 for a replay. I'm having a great time with that. I love that game. But the one I want to talk about the most is Pokemon Legends Arceus, which I am just in love with this game. I've been playing it like, I think it came out a week ago as we're recording this, and I have 15, 18 hours into it already. It's one of those games that I'm like, I sit down, I'm going to play for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to, go to bed, or I'm going to cook dinner. And then 2.5 hours later, I'm like, I'm real hungry, or I'm real tired. It's time to put this down. Yeah. I love it. Have you guys played it? Are you guys Pokemon fans at all?
So I'm a big Pokemon fan, and I had played Sword or Shield, I should say, and I liked it, but that had been the first one I had played since like whatever was on 3DS, X or Y, and before that, Red and Blue. So I like the games, but I have huge gaps in it. But this one has me very intrigued, and I keep seeing your posts, and it just makes me want it more and more.
Yeah,
I'm a very front-loaded Pokemon fan, so I got all my Pokemon out in like the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go, I've really enjoyed more recently, more so than the other games, because it is that continual rehash, which makes me like really appreciate what they're doing with Arceus. And I love seeing Twitter full of people who are just enjoying the game. I probably won't pick it up because I know it's so petty and shallow, but man, those graphics hurt. Like looking at them pains me to a point where like I know it would be off-putting and take me out of the game immediately. And there's really no excuse for it. So it's also partially that I don't want to support that. But I like what they're doing. It's funny because it's great for Pokemon to do something new and fun, but it's also like, man, they're just doing what many other games do, but it's fresh for Pokemon, right? And like I'm not crapping on the game or Game Freak at all. Is this even developed by Game Freak, this new one?
Yeah, it is.
It is?
Yep.
And it's great that they're trying something new, and that should be applauded, and they should continue to do something new. But yeah, I don't know if I could get into a Pokemon game right now.
Yeah. Those like I'm not gonna lie, I love the game, but I'm not gonna lie, the graphics are rough, and like most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'm so immersed in the game that I don't notice the graphics, like legit. And I totally agree that Game Freak, the Pokemon company, they make enough money that they have the resources to make the game look pretty. You know, like I think it was Bandai Namco worked on the Pokemon Snap game, and that game looks beautiful.
Right.
And so like there's really no excuse for the game to look the way it is. I think it does because they're beholden to like the big Pokemon release timeline, you know, everything. Yeah. This game has to come out here, and then the next game has to come out here, and the anime is going to take up the place in between. And there's more things outside of the particular game. But I'm glad you brought up Pokemon Go, because that's a good, like, I think back to like the first couple weeks that Pokemon Go came out, when it was like super fun to catch Pokemon.
I think we were just like, part of a Twitter thread where this came up, right? You and I were commenting on it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's like the joy of catching Pokemon is back, where in like the mainline games, it's more like, you know, I'll catch whatever Pokemon I see, but I'm not, it's just like I'm doing it because that's what you do in the game. And it's more for like, I'm really only excited to catch the ones that are going to be on my team. And in Arceus, they made it super fun to catch every Pokemon you see and use different strategies for catching them, both inside and outside of battle. So like, that's the main takeaway for me, is that it's like, it just brought that joy back, which I have, like, I've played a lot of Pokemon games and I have fun playing it, but the joy hasn't really been there like this since that first week of Pokemon Go. Where everyone was like losing their mind.
Right. I do think that's cool that they do the goal based, right? They do a lot of like, catch 10 or whatever, or, you know, defeat 10 of whatever type, and that does keep you going. I also really appreciate that it's not that split title where you have to trade to fill out your Pokedex. Like, that is great. You buy one game, you don't have to trade, you could fill out your Pokedex. I think that's a very, very cool thing. Great games.
Nice. It is. It's a lot of fun, and I was very skeptical about it, but I am just so happy that it ended up being as fun as it is, because like, I don't know, I just haven't had this much fun, like I said, since walking in the park and some person yells out like, "There's a Scyther over here," and people like run across the park. Like the community days. Like the joy level of the community hasn't been there like that since that Pokemon Go like first few weeks, and it's back, in my opinion.
That's awesome. It does seem like it is. It does seem like it's back.
I haven't bought it or anything, just because February is stacked and I know I won't dedicate the time yet. So maybe sometime this year I'll get around to that one. I'm certainly interested.
Yeah.
What do you got, Ryan?
Oh, it's me now. God, once again, guest episodes, dropping the ball. Classic Ryan. Anyway, so I've been playing a lot of Metroidvanias because I was vastly underprepared for this list, but I won't get into those. I won't get into those. I will talk about one game that I played this week called Doki Doki Literature Club. I'm trying something new this year where I'm really trying to play games that I normally wouldn't. And I've never played a visual novel. It's just never really been something that interests me. I'm not terribly into anime. That being said, I really enjoyed Doki Doki Literature Club. The first few hours I was sitting there like, wow, this is something. Not really enjoying myself, kind of like writing poems for anime women. I felt like a total weeb. Weeb. It was good though. Like, you know, hey, I already picked my favorite of the four. Like, it does that to you, right? But then it takes this turn that so I had gone into this blind. Nothing was spoiled. I'm not going to spoil anything here. But even though I expected a turn, the turn was so unexpected. And this game does such a good job of just surprising you. And I think it was a lot of fun. It surprises you in similar ways to Inscription, actually. It does some things where I just like couldn't believe the game was doing it. And it really made me happy that I am branching out and trying new things, because was it the type of gameplay I enjoyed? No. Was the story something that was engaging? Not for the first 2 or 3 hours of it. But man, it finished so strong that if this is something that even remotely interests you and you haven't played it, you definitely should. You definitely should go check it out. It's free on Steam. Like there's no reason that you shouldn't be playing it, in my opinion. It was surprising. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I had this game spoiled for me on just listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
But I forgot what the spoiler stuff is. So
you should check it out.
Oh, there you go.
It's free on
You're
Steam.
all good.
But you did mention like February stacked. I do want to express my hype for Elden Ring as well. That game is just like, I actually took off work the day it comes out so I could stay home and play it. Like I cannot wait. But we are less than a week away from Seafood, gentlemen, and that cannot be overstated. Like it's here, it's upon us, and I don't care if people are not as excited for me. I have a feeling they will be once this game drops. There was this is not like my mission debrief, so I'm kind of cheesing it by putting it here in the intro. But they did a live action take. They had commissioned a director to do a live action take on Sifu, and they just released it today. Full like 9-minute video that kind of parallels the storyline in the game without giving anything spoilery away. And it's cool. It's good kung fu action, man, and it's great. Yeah, so like get hyped for this game, guys. Come on.
Yeah, it looks super cool. I'm not going to buy it right when it comes out because I'm playing Pokemon, I'm playing Dark Souls, 100%. Elden Ring is coming up. So I'm not going to buy it right now, but I am for sure going to play that because it looks like all those times you ever watched, kung fu movie or something like that and thought like this would be cool as a game. This is that game. Yeah. So like, I'm pretty pumped for it. It looks really good. And it looks like it's had a lot of support from Sony, like to make sure it's polished. Like it got delayed, I think. Is that right? I think it got delayed. It seems like it's gotten a lot of support that way. So it should come out, fully formed, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the good news is it's a $40 title. So if you do wait, it's probably going to be a $20 title in a few months. Right? Yeah, like they typically go that route. You could get Kina regularly at $20, and that was like another $40 title. So waiting isn't a bad idea. I'm there day one though, because this is my filler game until Elden Ring drops, right? So yeah. How about you, Brian? What have you been playing?
Well, I'll rep the Horizon rah here because I know. Yeah, Ryan hates Horizon apparently. So
whatever. No, I don't. I love Horizon.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be my day one February game, and will take up all my time for sure. I'll get around to Elden Ring. I'm certainly excited, but it comes after Horizon. But my game that I played and beat, which is a rarity for me, I know, was Returnal. And
hey, good job, dude.
I feel very proud.
You're sitting amongst other Returnal veterans, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah.
So I beat it. I didn't do any extra stuff. I know that there's the secret ending. I'm interested in doing that, and I'll probably pick it up in the days before Horizon here. But I just really want to point out, I know people have played that probably last year, and it's been a long time, but that game is so good. The atmosphere, that is the high point for me. The music is so perfect. It's not like music I would listen to outside of the game, but it's the music just perfectly encapsulates what that world is. That controller, you can't play this game without the controller. It is like a huge part of the experience.
The best implementation of the DualSense out there, the adaptive triggers,
absolutely,
the haptic feedback, all of it.
Yeah, better than any other game that's out there currently. You feel, I know, Ryan, you've said before, you feel every single raindrop, every rumble of thunder. Every time you go through one of those like zip portal things, you feel it. I mean, the whole thing is like this globe of particles, and you feel those particles running over your hand as you're being transported like across the map. I just can't say enough good things about how that game portrays itself, and the story gets relayed in a very interesting way where it's not like cutscenes that are long and you have to suffer through it. It's drip fed to you in a very interpretive way. You can kind of like see what's going on, but there's still room for your own thoughts and opinions on it. And I'm just so high on this game right now. I know that everyone has gone over this before, but man, that game is so good. And it reached a point where I told Brian, like, man, I am having such a hard time. I don't think I'm going to beat this. Like, I was getting to the point where I was frustrated to the point that I was ready to like drop it or at least like let it go for a couple weeks. But I pushed through, and then it was just like smooth sailing from there.
Mm-hmm.
So remember last week you said, oh, I'm sorry, Dave, did you want to go ahead?
Oh, it's okay. Like, I was just going to say, I know, like you said, you were probably going to go back and do like the secret ending stuff. And like, I just wanted to say that like, I get super eye rolly when secret endings get brought up, because it often involves a bunch of like really obtuse stuff that like, it would be really hard to figure out on your own. And Returnal is not like that at all. Like Returnal, it's very much like first set of credits and then a fairly well explained series of things to do to get the real ending. It's not like a Hollow Knight situation or something like that, where the secret ending is stuff that like you for sure need to go look at a guide to do. So,
That's
and like it's great. More Returnal, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
What more could you ask for?
It plays so well, you just want to keep playing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And the sound design too, you know, like you had mentioned the music. It's not the type of soundtrack you want to listen to, but it's perfect because it's perfectly alien. And the sound design and the animation, like the animation of that teleportation you're saying is just, I could talk about Returnal all day. I've already done this. But the point I want to make is last week you had said about Inscription that you are so happy I was able to enjoy a game you recommended. Well, man, the feeling is mutual, because it just absolutely makes my day that you enjoyed Returnal. Like, that means a lot to me.
Awesome.
Seriously. I love that game. Love that game.
Yeah, me too.
It's a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also played Ark a little bit with my wife, and that's always fun. That's just a very good mindless, like, let's survive for however long against these dinosaurs. But yeah.
Mindless. Surviving against these dinosaurs is mindless.
Right. You have to put zero effort into that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it from me. So what do you say we get into the list then?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. All right. So Dave, as our guest, you have the honor of starting us off with your honorable mention.
Okay. This one was really hard because I thought like I can just pick 5 or 6 Metroidvanias real easy. And then I made my list and it's like 11 games that I really want to talk about, you know? Right. So, but my honorable mention is going to go to Yoku's Island Express. And I don't know if you guys have played this before.
I'm aware of it, but I've never played it.
I've seen people play it. It came out when I was into watching Twitch for like a year or two there, and it came out, and somebody I watched regularly played it.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, Yoku's Island Express is a Metroidvania, but its main mechanic is that you can't control your character directly. It's pinball, and they've created the levels based on pinball mechanics. And so each screen has bumpers and, you know, pinball obstacles and stuff like that. And you get Metroidvania upgrades to unlock like new tracks to go on and other movement upgrades. And the game has like, you know, boss fights and platforming pinball challenges, what you would expect from a Metroidvania. But like the main thing that makes me want to just recommend people play it is it's super cute. It's super charming. It's pretty relaxing. Like it's pinball, but it's not incredibly hard. It's actually one of the easier pinball games that I've ever played because, you know, once you start playing pinball and they start introducing like crazy obstacles, especially in video games, it can get really difficult. And also this game goes on sale for like $3 on Switch and other platforms. So it's like one of the easiest recommendations for actually any of the games on my list. Which is why I wanted to put it at the honorable mention. Yoku's Island Express, the music and stuff, and just the atmosphere, all the characters are really cute. It's just a fun, relaxing game, which not everything on my list counts as relaxing, as we'll get into.
It's a hard thing to call something in this category relaxing, right?
Right,
it's
yeah.
not an easy thing for a Metroidvania to accomplish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, good pick. Did it earn any street cred because of its ingenuity? Like the fact that it's pinball mixed with Metroidvania? That's such an odd mix. Like
Yeah. I think it
pretty
definitely
cool.
has gotten some, publicity, I guess, because it is, I think two reasons. Number one, because it is so cheap most of the time. Like when it goes on sale, it's like I said, it's like $3. And so it makes all of these like, what's on sale this week, YouTube videos and stuff like that. But it also did get a lot of credit for like really successfully merging Metroidvania with pinball. And to the best of my knowledge, it's the only pinball based game that's not just a straight up pinball game,
Yeah, I can't really think of another one. I feel like Sonic 2 might qualify.
Oh yeah. Wasn't thinking about Sonic and
or the Sonic Spinball, but that was like purely pinball.
That was a full offshoot. Yeah. Metroid's
same
been
with
there too.
Same with like Pokemon pinball. But those are all just like straight up pinball games. This is an actual Metroidvania.
Right. So moving into my honorable mention, good pick, Dave. But I want to just go ahead and say, if it wasn't clear in my intro, I haven't played many Metroidvanias. Whereas like Dave really had to cut his list down. I had the opposite problem. I had to fill my list up. So I played quite a few this week. So if some pick is where you don't think it should be, you could probably base it off the time I've put into it. With that in mind, my honorable mention is Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it should be on the list just based on the strength of its art direction and imagery alone. And that is pretty much why it earned this spot. It is gorgeous. Like I just found myself stopping at random times to look at the background, and everything has this very like hand painted imagery. It is just so beautiful. I wanted to take picture after picture after picture while playing this game. It would be higher because I think the world design is very cool, and that's a very important part of Metroidvanias is how the world's designed. I think it has that classic feel as far as unlocking your surroundings and getting upgrades, but it's just something about the controls felt off. It felt like a little too floaty, a little too slidey with the main character, and I don't even know his name, so there you go with my lack of time put into it.
His name's Ori.
Yeah,
it's Ori. It's Ori.
Title,
okay,
yeah.
Well, all right. What's the owl's name though? Little owl boy.
Oh, now we're into things I don't know anything
and like
about.
that's what I mean. The characters, there's like also tall, lanky tree guy, and then there's like round forest spirit. Like, what are their names? So of course he's Ori. That makes sense.
Don't forget about giant swamp tortoise,
right?
Or whatever.
Right. Yeah, killer wolf man. Right, like. Yeah, but the controls just like didn't, and maybe it was because I was playing other Metroidvanias this week that immediately grabbed me and felt like I was at home playing them. That when I went to Ori, it was gorgeous and the music was gorgeous, and you could tell it was telling a very emotional tale just from the very beginning. But I couldn't continue playing it because I had turned on these other ones that like played really well, and that meant more to me than this did.
Let me ask you, how far did you get? You didn't beat it, right?
No, I did not beat it. No, I'm a few hours in, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a big part of the game is going to be getting abilities, and you will be zipping everywhere once you do.
And
so
that's typical of the genre.
Right. Right.
But it's one of my knocks against certain games within this genre, though, is that they don't give you those abilities fast enough. And granted, an hour and a half isn't a lot of time to put into it, but there are other games on my list that would have been higher if they gave you those abilities quicker, because to me, like the best Metroid game is you never feel like you're wandering around just looking where to get an ability, right? Sure. And like there were times even within that hour and a half where I'm like, okay, like where do I go now? And I think pointing you, at least leaning you in the right direction is something that a good Metroidvania game should do. And I sound like I'm really crapping on the game. I am enjoying it. I'm definitely going to play it. Probably going to play through it. But it's my honorable mention. It's not higher on my list, so deal with it, guys.
That's your list. That's good.
Yeah.
And you played Blind Forest a little bit, like in the past, right?
Never played it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, actually, you recommended going into Will of the Wisps. Like you said, I wouldn't even have to play Blind Forest. So
Yeah, I mean, it's the better game, I would say.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's if you do play Will of the Wisps and then go back to Blind Forest, like within close proximity, it's gonna feel a little bit worse. Like Blind Forest is still a very good game, but like they improved a lot of things for Will of the Wisps, especially combat is the main thing that sticks out. So going back to Blind Forest is going to feel a little bit rough unless you give yourself a lot of time to kind of lose the muscle memory and how things were in Ori 2. Yeah.
Plus, Blind Forest it was some save mechanic that was not fun to play with.
I liked that. In Blind Forest. Yeah.
Oh man, I prefer just the checkpointing of Will of the Wisps. That was my biggest knock when I played through Blind Forest was the save mechanic.
All I've gotten from this is that you guys showed your hand too early, because if there is an Ori game on your list, I know which one it's going to be.
I mean, yeah.
I'm kidding.
All right, well, let's dive into my honorable mention, and this one, I don't know if it's a Metroidvania. You tell me.
Okay. Uh-oh.
That's
We're
why
off to a good start here.
Here we go. Here we go.
I have the controversial, like, this is why it's the honorable mention pick. SteamWorld Dig 2.
That's a Metroidvania.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a whole argument that yes, you get all sorts of abilities that let you dive deeper into this game, but it's basically Dig Dug, but with the Metroidvania elements of kind of like you're gated in different places and you can't go down deeper until you get this ability. And they definitely give you those abilities pretty quickly. You're zipping down there in the dirt. I would say at a good clip. By the end of the game, you are flying with like a jetpack and you can do so many different things. The movement is so good in that game. But yeah, I love the aspect of just like there's this whole town up at the top that you can kind of buy upgrades and talk to different people there. It's the SteamWorld world, so we've got that art style. I love everything that Image and Form has put out. I haven't played the Gunk yet, but super interested still. But yeah, I think the just loop of gameplay of digging down deeper. You have to manage different aspects that allow you to go deeper, and just kind of seeing what's around the next corner. Like, oh, I think I can get over there to mine that thing and fight that enemy. I think there's just a lot of fun aspects there that I couldn't put that game down when I played it originally. Great Switch game for sure.
Yeah. So I'm nodding to all this, but I actually never played SteamWorld Dig 2. I played SteamWorld Dig, which I would also say is a Metroidvania. Coincidentally, the one that Ori and the Will of the Wisps cut off of my list. So if you thought I was crapping on Ori of the Will and the Wisps, it beat out SteamWorld Dig.
Okay. Nice. I never played the first one.
I never played the first one either. I got the second one in a sale, and like you said, you couldn't put it down. I think this game, like SteamWorld Dig 2, is like an 8 to 10 hour game, and I think I beat it in like 2 days. Like I could not stop playing it. The SteamWorld series as a whole is so consistently really, really good. But like SteamWorld Dig 2 is like so addicting. Loved it.
Yeah. I got the first one in a humble bundle, actually. It was like that and like Bit Trip Runner and a few other like indie titles. So,
I think I got that same one and was just I didn't know about SteamWorld Dig, and then I heard a bunch of people really liking this one, so I latched onto that. But I just remember feeling that whatever addictive gameplay they put in there, it was working on me real well.
Yeah.
All right. Take it away, Dave. Number 5.
Oh man. Okay. Number 5. So Metroidvanias is going to start with a Metroid game, and we got to have some representation from like the namesakes of the genre, right?
Everyone better have a Metroid and a Castlevania on this list, or I'm going to riot.
We'll see. Anyway, my number 5 is the Metroid representative on my list, and it's Metroid Zero Mission, which is my favorite Metroid game. By quite a lot, actually. So what I love about this is it has obviously it's a remake of the first Metroid game. So it has like that early Metroid design philosophy of like letting you get lost, letting you explore. Zero Mission gives you markers for like where you're supposed to go, but it's not as linear and like, forced linear as Fusion is. So it combines that like early Metroid design sensibility with the game feel of later Metroid, which is why I don't actually like playing Super Metroid a lot, because I don't like the way it feels to play, like really at all. I love the way that Zero Mission feels to play, and Fusion too, but Fusion's not on my list. Anyway, so Zero Mission just has like the best of both worlds for me, and it's just my favorite Metroid game. And when I play Metroidvanias, and you really get into like the flow of a Metroidvania, for me, the best part is like that. I found a new upgrade. I remember 4 places where I need to go and check out that upgrade, or like, oh, sweet, I got, the bomb jump. I'm going to go back through the old levels and test out the bomb jump and see if there's any place I can go get a new energy tank or something like that. That's the joy of Metroidvanias to me. And Metroid Zero Mission gave me like the best experience with that of all the Metroid games. That being said, it's number 5 on my list because Metroid Zero Mission added a part at the end where you go into like the I forget the race. I don't care about Metroid lore at all. You go into like a pirate base or something like that, and it's stealth and it's terrible. So that's why it's lower on my list. Luckily, it's not as long as the main game. But number 5, Metroid Zero Mission. Really love that game. My favorite Metroid.
Nice.
Wow. Good pick.
It would be great if Nintendo gave people the opportunity to play these games again.
Yes, yes, it would.
It's got to be coming, right? It's got to be coming.
I wish.
I was going to say Castlevania is getting slowly released onto Switch, but Nintendo doesn't own Castlevania. Yeah, too. Exactly. So you have spoken Metroid NFTs into existence, but the Metroid games are not going to be released on Switch. So good job, guys.
Well, we do what we can here. A good pick for sure. My number 5 is part of that Metroidvania representation from the namesake. It's a Castlevania game, and it's my favorite Castlevania game, which is Portrait of Ruin for the DS.
The DS.
Oh, it is for the DS. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like this doesn't get enough credit, man. So in this game, you play as either Jonathan or Charlotte. Johnny Boy is like your typical Castlevania type protagonist, right? Weaponry wielding, and Charlotte is a mage, and you can switch on the fly between the two of them. And it does very interesting things with puzzles in a typical Metroidvania style with the switching mechanic. And it just keeps you engaged. I think the strength of this game is the pacing, which is a problem with a lot of Metroidvanias, but this just nails that pacing where you never feel like you're wandering for too long without finding a secret or finding something new or finding where you're supposed to go and a new boss. It's just a very good mix of that classic, Castlevania gameplay and secrets. It also has my favorite Castlevania boss in it. He's been in other games, but my favorite Castlevania boss, I've mentioned him on the podcast before, is Legion. I think it's like the craziest design ever, right? In a game,
I thought you were going to say Dracula.
I was
all right. It's Dracula, He's been in other games, but he's in
exactly.
This one. He's in this one. Yeah. And it actually
Is
does
that
like a really cool
amorphous thing. It's like a big ball, or am I thinking?
Yeah, it's like a ball of human bodies.
Right.
And
Oh,
as
God.
you hit it, like the bodies fall off of it.
Yeah.
Until you get to like the core. And I just think like the imagery is so like, off-putting. And it's like Castlevania is that gothic horror 2D game that, doesn't always show gore, right? Like, it has like blood splatter and stuff, but it's never like grotesque in a way that like, say, Bloodborne is, right? Mm-hmm. But this boss would belong in a game like Bloodborne. It's that kind of grotesque.
Yeah.
And I always just thought like, man, I never wanted to like fight that boss. It always just kind of got under my skin, which makes me like it. Good music, as all Castlevanias have. I just think this one grabbed me in a way that some of the other Castlevanias weren't able to. And maybe it was because I was alone on a boat with my DS and had the time to play it through and nothing else to play. But man, I really, really loved this game, and it stuck with me throughout the years.
And I think this is the third one in that that trilogy of DS games. So they probably had the most time to like get everything coordinated, and they really knew what they were doing at that point.
Yeah, it does this really cool things too, where you like have to fight Richter, who's another Castlevania protagonist, but in this he's like an evil Richter. He's like, yeah, it's really cool. It's just a cool game. Like the story in Castlevania, like who really cares, right? You're going to kill Dracula, but yeah, it just nailed everything that it came out and did everything it was supposed to do.
Nice.
Yeah, those DS Castlevanias are like, I've played quite a few Castlevania games, but never any of the DS ones. I have all of them. They're just like in my backlog, so like I'm excited to play them eventually because I've heard really good things. Like in my opinion, maybe controversial, I think Castlevania through the games that I've played just steadily gets better and better and better and like more fun to play, at least through the 2D ones. I'm not going to comment on 3D Castlevania right now, but
I mean, we all know Castlevania 64.
I was going to say I'm not commenting on 3D Castlevania, but I'm excited to play those DS ones sometime.
I hope you get around to them, man. I look forward to hearing about them on your show because they're good. They're worthy of your time for sure.
Yeah, really good. Good pick. I love making some Castlevania games. All right, so my number 5 is Dead Cells. So this is a weird Metroidvania because it's only really a Metroidvania in the map aspect. You're going through different areas of the map, and you have a map that you can look at the entire time. You're going through rooms, and I wouldn't say you're really gate kept by different abilities so much as it's a roguelike. So you're going through, you're getting what you can to get through to the final boss, and then you die and you start over and try to do it again. So,
I would say that like the abilities do open up things for you when you restart.
Totally. You get some permanent upgrades that help you through different areas, certainly. But like the main weaponry of the game doesn't really, like, you can get by with whatever you have. But I played this game on Switch, and another awesome Switch game. I love the speed of it. It is so fast. By the time you're like getting enough of the abilities, you'll be getting double jumps, triple jumps. I think you can even get like four jumps at a certain point if you're finding those upgrades enough of the time, where you can just like fly around and dispatch enemies however you want. But it gets very difficult because it's almost like a bullet hell. There's like so many enemies on screen, and you have to carefully like maneuver around everything, dodging all the time. But yeah, that gameplay loop of just kind of you are the one getting better, which I know is what a lot of I hate saying it, but the Souls games, like you're the one upgrading yourself. Right. But it's certainly a core concept of this one. Art style, I can take it or leave it. It's very, those pixel graphics. Can't really see what your main character looks like all that much. I mean, obviously it's a fleshed out character with key art that we have at this point. But yeah, I mean, the gameplay really is what keeps you going on this. And it's one of those games where you just, get better and better. And then pretty soon you're getting through these bosses like nothing. So great game, super fast paced.
Yeah. I think it's a great pick for sure.
Yeah. It's a good game. It has like some of the ultimate game feel of any like Metroidvania type or like 2D action games I've ever played. That Dead Cells just feels amazing to play. It's super smooth. And I played that a lot. Like, and then I have this thing in roguelikes where once I beat the final boss one time, my brain is like, okay, dude, you're done with this game.
Yeah, you beat it.
you're done. Even though in Dead Cells, it's not like that. Hades is another one. I beat it once and I was like, okay, I'm done.
Oh, wow.
But did you beat it?
Like I beat the final boss one time and like, I know exactly what that means and what that means I didn't see, but my brain was like, nope, you're finished with this. Okay. So that happened to me in Dead Cells too. And so it just made me wish, like, Dead Cells was really successful. They're still putting out like DLC packs and stuff like that. They're still working on the game. And it just makes me wish like, please just take this and make a bespoke Metroidvania game, like non-proc gen. Please, please, please. It will be like my favorite game ever. But my roguelike sickness like will not allow me to keep playing a lot of these games. And Dead Cells didn't escape that either. But I do really like it. It's a good game.
Yeah. I you know what? I actually had a very similar thing. I beat it maybe twice and got my fill. But the thing that is always in the back of my mind, there's that like the first room you go through where you haven't even like gotten into the world. All those bottles, the glass bottles, are just like hanging. You can jump through them.
It's genius.
They want you to fill put that all there. Of those up. So and there's like hundreds of them. So I will never fill them all, but I did fill a decent amount. So Dead Cells.
Cool. Time for my number 4.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. All right. So my number 4 is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. On my list. So I already said before a couple of things. It's an improvement in a lot of ways over the first game, which I really liked. But in my opinion, in Ori 2, the combat is better. The movement upgrades are really fun, the new ones. And one of Ori's main things is having these chase sequences where a big monster will chase you for like it's basically a big platforming challenge. And I think the chases in Ori 2 are a lot better than the ones in Ori 1. And it's like a major part of the game. And the other, like Ryan, you already talked about how it looks on the Switch OLED, the OLED Switch, it looks incredible.
I can imagine.
If someone was like, I just bought a Switch OLED, what games should I play to like show off what this new screen can do? Ori 2 would be at the top of the list to recommend. It looks incredible. And like the Switch is my Metroidvania machine anyway. Like I can't really, I don't think I've ever played a Metroidvania on my PlayStation. It's just like so natural for me to like play on the Switch, sitting in my recliner or like laying down in bed or something like that. So it looks great on that OLED Switch. The reason Ori is not higher on my list is because I didn't get I just got a new upgrade. I want to go through the whole map again to look for stuff that I missed before. I didn't really have that as much in this game as I do on some games that are higher on my list. But other than that, I can't really think of a flaw in the game. It has some more challenging, but like I think better designed boss fights than the first game, and some of them are really, really fun. And you actually get like some spectacle in some of the boss fights that a lot of 2D like Metroidvanias is really. I think it's really hard for a 2D game to have a ton of spectacle, like the same way that some of the bosses in Returnal, as you guys know. Those come to mind. But Ori 2, the way that the art design is, the spectacle is in full effect for some of these bosses. So yeah, that's my number 4, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. And definitely like listen to Dave over me because he's played more Metroidvanias. Like, his opinion is worth more. But it's definitely more of an honorable mention in my opinion.
Oh,
just okay. No, I think it's a great pick. It's funny because I didn't run into many chase scenes, so I didn't know they were such a big part of the game. It's actually one of the aspects I didn't like too.
Oh man, I didn't like them as much in the first game for sure.
Maybe I haven't gotten to the see its full potential yet.
There's some real cool ones in this.
Yeah. I just think like the movement upgrades that you get, because like the chase scenes are usually they're a platforming test or a platforming challenge, really a timed platforming challenge. And the movement upgrades you get in Ori and the Will of the Wisp are so much fun. Like there's one in particular I'm not going to spoil, but it's just so fun to do a challenge built around this one mechanic, that the chases are actually fun, which they should be. And in Ori 1, I thought they were really frustrating most of the time.
Cool. Good pick. So moving on to my number 4. We're on number 4, right? Here we go. It's Super Metroid, guys.
Good.
All the way at number 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think this is a nostalgia pick. This game meant a lot to me. And it's all I just played through it again, in 2021. It still means a lot to me, but it's the first game that really showcased for me what a good Metroidvania was. There were Metroid games prior to this. There were Castlevania games prior to this, but this I think was it's still kind of the template that they follow to this day, right? As far as how the world is structured, how you unlock things, all of that. I think this is the one that really pushed it to where we are now. It's a bit too slow to be the best out there. I agree with what you were saying, Dave. It's not the movement. Just going back to it, especially in 2021, is man, this is a slow game. You are not fast as Samus. None of it seems fluid. The jump feels a little wonky, but it doesn't. It just, that's why it's so low on my list. It's number 4, but it still doesn't hurt the game enough to take it completely off my list. I think that it means so much to me, guys. But it's really a nostalgia, but it's also that perfect mix of environmental puzzles and action that these games are supposed to be, right? And I just think that there's a compelling story to be told just by living in this world that's unfamiliar to you. And it did that in an era where other games kind of either were very in your face about the story or didn't have one. And this was that in between, in a time when something like that didn't really exist.
I think it does a good job of atmosphere where even modern Metroid games don't nail it in the same creepy alone feel that Super Metroid really excelled at.
No, I agree. I mean,
in the modern Metroid games, you have a computer talking to you every 15 seconds.
True.
So
exactly.
Yeah. I just think too, the pacing hurts it a little bit. I do think my last pick actually had better pacing than this game. It is very much, while it is that template that Metroidvania games still go by, it's also the one that's doesn't really realize its full potential, because you find objects and you're just oh wait, what do I do with this? Sometimes it doesn't really do the best job of pointing you in the right direction. But
sure.
Yeah, man, I love this game. Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Good. Gotta have a Metroid on there. And a Castlevania.
I've now had both.
Yeah, you're free now. You can say whatever you want. You've paid the tax.
My list is only Metroid and Castlevania games. So
okay, well, don't do that.
Well, it's Metroidvania, guys. Right? Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah.
I feel like we've kind of had an unspoken rule since not the beginning, but early on, where we try to not do too many from the same franchise when we make these lists. I'm not saying you can't do that, but we try to not, at least.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, I was joking, but
I know.
I think it actually is our different tastes is why we don't always end up with the same games. It's kind of surprising, but yeah. Brian has bad taste and I have good taste, so you get the best of both worlds. That's what it is.
And we come
that's
together
why you
on
guys
Returnal.
are a good team.
Yeah, exactly. We come together on Returnal and Inscription. That's right.
That's right.
The 4 games we have dedicated episodes to, right?
Yeah,
we come together on
those. That's the pantheon of list off for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Here's one that flies in the face of Ryan. Number 4. The DS games are good for Castlevania. But what about Circle of the Moon for Castlevania?
Wow.
I love this one. I know that people what is it? What's the third one in the GBA
Arya of Sorrow.
That's right. Yeah. I think people tend to like that one the most. For me, the art style of Castlevania Circle of the Moon is really what did it. You get bigger models of the characters in the subsequent games, and I didn't like that as much. I liked the smaller characters that you find in Circle of the Moon. You haven't lived until you've played Circle of the Moon with a Wormlight sitting at an Olive Garden on the original GBA. Because that's how I was first introduced to this game. I couldn't even save the game because I didn't know what was going on enough. And
were you a child at the time?
So I got it, 2001? So 12 or so?
Oh, okay. Because I was picturing like 20 something Brian sitting at an Olive Garden with the never ending pasta
in the dark. Like in the dark. Let's not forget that he's in the dark. The store is closed. The workers have all gone home.
He's just like in there playing. Playing Game Boy Advance. Like, fill the pasta bowl, please. It's never ending.
Yeah. I really like Circle of the Moon when I was a kid too. It was like among my favorite Game Boy Advance games when I was a kid, and like actually playing them concurrently. And I played this last year. Like when I got my 3DS, I started to revisit some of these Game Boy Advance games again. And when I was a kid, I loved the card system, that you get your power-ups in Circle of the Moon. I loved it. And then when I played it as an adult, I realized it's just like kind of random drops. And if you want a specific thing, you kind of have to just go grind enemies for it.
Sure.
I don't know. It wasn't like game breaking though, because I found one I liked earlier in the game and I just like stuck with that instead of grinding to try to complete everything. I ran into a few bosses that I really got frustrated on. And even though I was playing with save states on my emulator, I was still just like, I'm not having any fun, and I put it down. But I would say that's one of my favorite Castlevania games that I've played. Not that I've played all of them, but it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. And I might feel differently if I went through and played them all back to back again, but man, just having that experience, I think it is a nostalgia thing for me because it really meant something. This was a freaking launch game for the Game Boy Advance, which it was not the one that I got. My first GBA game was a Game Boy game. It was Killer Instinct, which was,
of course it was.
It was, I got it because like I didn't have any games to play, and it was like at a flea market. So I was like, oh, this is cheap. Let me grab this and I can still play it. But I did rent Circle of the Moon, and that was a fun time. But yeah, that card system, you guys know I am a sucker for cards, and this game does not disappoint in that respect. Anytime there's like cards or like tarot decks, like, oh man, sign me up. That is so much fun.
Even if they don't play like cards, they're just like cards that act as like mix and match, like make your power up type thing.
Right.
It's still give Brian cards. He's all in.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. That's such a Brian thing, though. I had Killer Instinct on the Game Boy. Like, of course you did. Of course you had Killer Instinct on the Game Boy.
Those graphics were so bad. They crammed that. What is RCM? Whatever the graphics engine that they use for Donkey Kong, Killer Instinct. They crammed that into the Game Boy, and man, is it bad?
I bet.
Horrible.
How many playable characters were there?
There were way fewer than the main game. I remember that. So probably like 4 to 6. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, not the whole roster.
So that's Brian's number 4, Killer Instinct for the Game Boy.
Yes, exactly. Real quick, my first Game Boy Advance game was called Ready to Rumble Boxing. And it was this you remember that? It's a weird boxing game, but it was just like this is a boxing game, and one of the characters has an afro and the other one's like a giant fat guy. And there's your game. Enjoy. I remember getting that with my Game Boy Advance, but I was just happy to have anything. I was happy to have a Game Boy Advance. So
I remember, side note, I remember that on the 64, Ready to Rumble Boxing on the 64. And I had a group of friends where they would always say, what should we play? Should we play Ready to Rumble Boxing or Smash? And I was like, always the guy who's like, dude, it's Smash. And like, I had people actually arguing against me because think of it, like Smash wasn't what it is now, you know?
Right.
But I was like, no, like the better game is Smash Brothers. We should definitely play that one. And I would have friends in my group who would be like, no, we should play Ready to Rumble. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
If you put Pikachu in Ready to Rumble, maybe it would be worthy, but no.
Yeah.
Right.
Jeez.
I guess so. Like sticking with Game Boy Advance, my number 3 is a Castlevania game on Game Boy Advance that we briefly mentioned earlier. It's Arya of Sorrow, which this is my favorite Castlevania game. And like I said, I think that so I've played Rondo of Blood, Symphony of the Night, and then all 3 of the Game Boy Advance Castlevanias. And in my opinion, they just keep getting better as the series goes. And so this one, I think, to me, has the best combo of like kind of RPG-ish progression systems. Game feel, I feel, improves with newer and newer entries. And like I said, I got frustrated with some bosses in Circle of the Moon. I think that Arya of Sorrow has good boss fights all the way through. It even has that Legion boss for you there. So it must be a repeating boss throughout the series, Legion. And when you brought it up, I was like, I remember fighting that in Arya of Sorrow. And I remember being like, I don't want to hit that with a whip. That's that's gross.
Some people are into it. Hey, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just really love Arya of Sorrow. I think it's a and this is not just like a legacy, like I need to put Castlevania. This is legit like one of my favorite Metroidvanias. It's a very good game.
No, I mean, it should go without saying just from my lack of playing Metroidvanias, but none of my games made my list just because they have a namesake.
Yeah.
That's not how we do things.
It was kind of like well, you know, I really like a Metroid game and I really like a few of the Castlevania games. Do they fit? You know, but like Arya of Sorrow, I just think is really, really good. And another thing that I think is really cool about Castlevanias in particular, Metroids too, they're not very long. And like Metroidvanias in general as a genre, like as I get older and older, I just really love a game that takes like 6 to 10 hours to play. And most Metroidvanias, not all of them, but most of them fit really nicely in this like 10 hours and under like time commitment. So if you're like me and you like to play lots of different games and get lots of different experiences, Metroidvanias are like some of the best like genres to like really get into.
No, it's good. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate something that's not a time sink at this point in my life.
Totally.
So I feel that in my bones. So my number 3, it was mentioned already by somebody. It's Dead Cells.
Nice.
Man, so like this game is great. I'm just going to come out and say that because as I mentioned, played many Metroidvanias this week, and I tried my hand at a few. Narita Boy on Game Pass is one. Couldn't really find myself getting into it. Ori and the Will of the Wisps as well. And I was like, I should try others just to see if they'd make my list. So I paused Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and I turned on Dead Cells, and I played Dead Cells for hours and hours and hours. Because like this game just immediately grabbed me, and it still hasn't let go. Like I'll go play it tonight when we're done with this. I loved how, like you said, how smoothly the character moves throughout the world is just, it's like that perfect movement that some of my other entries didn't have. Super Metroid lacked it, Ori and the Will of the Wisp lacks it, in my opinion.
It's like Mario almost with your jump and
Well, the jump was a little like shallow. He doesn't jump that high.
Yeah, and that's where you need those multi jumps.
Right. It was more the speed that I appreciated. The game is, technical but punishing. It's fair. It's fast. It's all these things that you want. It's just a pure joy to play. I love the art style too. And I love some of the animation and like the sound effects that go with it. There's that every time you get a permanent upgrade, he does that like slap with his hands.
Right.
And like brings it down, and it's like you feel the power in that movement. They did such a good job with the sound effect that accompanies it. I loved how it paid homage to every game in the genre that came before it, and it's immediately apparent. They waste no time. Like, you get a book where it's like tells a story about, basically the Ori, or it tells a story about Hollow Knight, or it tells a story about all these other Metroidvania or roguelike games that came before it. And you even find things throughout the world, from like Curse of the Dead Gods. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right.
Where you find like an Aztec or Mayan pyramid, and if you like interact with it, you'll get a weapon that actually comes from that game. And they have a bench where if you sit on it, you'll get a weapon that comes from Hollow Knight. It's like, man, that's so cool that it's so self-aware and incorporates those things, because it really comes across as like paying tribute to the genre. And it's awesome. It never takes itself too seriously in that way either. Yeah, I think
it does have a sense of humor.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's just that perfect representation and my favorite mix of the roguelite and Metroidvania genre. It's not my favorite Metroidvania, obviously, it's third. But when you mix that, like those two genres, I think this just nails it. I think it does an extremely good job of merging the two.
Was this your first time playing it?
Yeah, first time.
Oh,
playing
wow.
it. Yeah. And I'm in love with it. Like, I really, really love it.
Man, I would have recommended this game to you sooner if I had remembered that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Very good. I love it.
Thank you.
All right.
Did you want to add something, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
I was just kind of thinking, like, when I was making my list, Dead Cells didn't come up, even though I played it and I really enjoyed it. Like, it didn't even make my like list of things to think about putting on the list. I guess I just don't view it as a Metroidvania, despite how the map looks and how the 2D action and stuff like that. I guess because it's a roguelike, and if I am excluding it on unstable grounds there, then that's my fault. But like, it just didn't come up. But cool that both of you guys put it on your list. It is a really good game, and like I said, you're talking about things where I'm thinking like, I don't remember that, but then I remembered like, I haven't played Dead Cells in at least 2 years now, and I feel like they put out a new DLC like every 2 months for that game. It's insane how much new content they've kept adding to it.
They're still updating it. The developers are still updating
it. Like, there was a new one like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. And so I did have the same doubts about including it on my list, because I'm like, is this a Metroidvania? I consulted the internet, which said it is, so I can't be wrong.
There you go.
Good.
No, you've been proven right in a court of law.
There's never conflicting information on the internet.
No. I mean, I didn't go to Reddit, where I'm sure there are thousands of arguments going either way on this, but
I mean, that's why I hesitated on SteamWorld Dig, because I found a Reddit thread that said, no, this is not a Metroidvania.
I would actually feel like SteamWorld Dig is more of a Metroidvania than Dead Cells.
Totally,
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, let's jump into my number 3 then. It is Hollow Knight, and I know that this game is very divisive, but I love it. I went through this game, so I like talking about when and how I played these games. I think it does add a lot to my enjoyment of it. This was the game that I had on my Switch again. Dave, you mentioned how good the Switch is for Metroidvanias, and you were not wrong. I had this on the Switch, and I played it during those times when my son was very young and either needed to be, feeding every 2 hours or so, or would just get up, and I needed to help him get back to sleep. But this is a great game. Switch is the perfect system for parents, I would say, because I could just, hold him there, sit in the recliner, and play the game. And, that was what he needed from me during those times, was just to like relax and know that I was there. And I could just game, and I could, be up late at night and do my thing, and then put him down and be done. But this was a good game for that atmosphere, because it was dark, it was quiet, and that's the atmosphere of Hollow Knight. It's very brooding. It's very, it's like grayscale almost. But this is one of those games, I talked Returnal's atmosphere. I think Hollow Knight, one of its biggest strengths is that atmosphere. You feel like you're in these depths of just like bug havens. And the characters you meet are so fun. You can hear them from like miles away. You have a foreboding sense of what's coming in those instances. I love the the fast travel system is just this like train that's like bug parts. Everything is just so detailed and fits this world that they've just like created. And then the combat is really strong for me. This is one of the few games where I've played that has that mechanic of like you die, you need to go back and get your chips or souls or whatever they're called. And your Geo, that's right.
Well,
yes.
no, yeah.
It is, yeah. But that tension that comes in those instances is like unmatched for me. You know exactly where you need to go, and you need to destroy that ghost version of you that pops up. And even that fight has a little bit of tension to it. Like just getting there is horrific enough, but then actually like fighting yourself and not failing to get all your cash back.
That dude's a wuss though.
He is a wuss. He's like
goes down in like 2 hits.
Yeah.
Totally. But like let's say you died on some spikes, you need to navigate that. You need to be aware of your surroundings and those.
And if it's like difficult to get back to where he is, you could be really low on health when you get there. Like one hit and
right.
Yeah.
And after you die, you lose like, I don't know, 2/3. You lose 1/3 of your capacity to heal. So like if you're having a hard time getting back to it, it's kind of like a poor get poorer type thing sometimes. Right. Yeah.
So that tension is just like unmatched for many games for me.
Very cool. I just I know we're getting sidetracked a little bit here, and I hope you'll humor me, Dave, but I want to tell a story here. So imagine this: Brian at his house with infant baby on him, sleeping, right? Playing
infinite babies
sleeping. Yeah. With his little infant sleeping on him while he plays Hollow Knight. Little did we know, because we didn't even know each other, right around the corner was Ryan with his infant baby sleeping on him while he played through Dark Souls Remastered on the Switch of all.
There we go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You played that on the Switch.
I played the remaster on the Switch.
Right.
Yeah. And it was like, that's the memory I have from my little infant sleeping on me.
Sure.
Dark Souls.
Right.
Perfect for any child.
You guys picked two of the most relaxing, easiest. Yeah. Some of the
my heartbeat, like just getting ever faster is what helped him go to sleep. So
yeah. For sure.
I was gonna say, you were talking about like how it was a nice kind of like dark and just kind of brooding type game, and then I just pictured myself like fighting Hornet or something like that with a baby on my chest.
Oh god.
We go to the other end of like the anxiety spectrum there.
Yeah, totally,
for sure.
Oh, and whatever that god, what's the level where it's just like completely dark and you have this little
Deep Nest.
Deep Nest. Oh
Nest.
My god. So there's some horrific
sound.
levels.
What they do with the sound though when you go deep, because it's all music in the background, and then you go to these deep ones and it's just silent, echoing footsteps. It's like, it's like immediate, like so good. Sorry, go ahead.
Not to talk Returnal again, but you just reminded me, man, in the abyss, in the water, whenever any sound happens, it echoes all the way into just the depths of, oh my god, that blew me away when I was hearing that. Anyway,
that level is spooky.
It is. Oh geez. But yes, man, I need to do my own spoiler cast on Returnal.
I'd do another one.
You would? Yeah.
I would too.
Let's
do revisiting.
We got it. We'll bring Keith on too. We'll all do it.
That'd be crazy. But Hollow Knight, I wanted to say, the one last thing, the bosses are pretty hard, at least for me, where I was knocking my head against the wall with it. But this was definitely a game where I got immense joy from beating these bosses and getting to that next place. Similar to Returnal, you just hit those points where like, I did it. Like I actually beat that. I feel accomplished. So
Yep. Very good.
Yep.
My number 2 we're on number twos now, right?
Yes.
My number
Yeah,
two
we are.
is Death's Gambit, which is there has been a kind of subgenre of Metroidvanias that have been popping up, which is the Souls-like Metroidvanias, which really lean into like 2D Dark Souls-ish combat and game mechanics, but in a Metroidvania world. And so I've played 3 or 4 of these, and I don't like most of them. As much as I love Metroidvanias and as much as I love Dark Souls, something about 2D losing a third dimension just makes boss fights in particular very, very frustrating for me. But Death's Gambit, I love Death's Gambit so much. So it is a Souls-like Metroidvania, complete with like, unlike a lot of Metroidvanias, you have class selection. So you can play as, a warrior type. You can play as a mage, and then they have some really, really unique and creative classes. There's one called the Blood Knight, which has a mechanic that's just like Bloodborne, where if you get hit and then you hit the enemy, you can get some of your health back. And they have lots of other cool character classes. But you also get Metroidvania upgrades, and there's platforming and all kinds of very, very typical things for the Metroidvania genre. It's another game that looks beautiful. The pixel art is very creative and cool. And unlike a lot of Metroidvanias that we've talked about, this game has a story that is cool, and it's very like fun to follow, like the story of what's happening right now. Like in Hollow Knight, the story is you're kind of like uncovering what happened before. Mm-hmm. And in Metroid and Castlevania, I don't care about the story one bit at all. In Metroid, it's figure out what's going on the planet, then the planet explodes, you have to escape, right? And in Castlevania, it's go kill Dracula. But in Death's Gambit, it has like a story that has some very good and touching and emotional like beats to it with characters and stuff like that. And it's just something that like Metroidvanias don't often get into, straight up stories. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just really love Death's Gambit. It just got a huge expansion last year, 2021, that turned it into a Metroidvania because it wasn't really in its first form. But they spent, I want to say like 3 or 4 years working on it and like turning it into a real Metroidvania with double jumps and stuff like that. So yeah, this is my number 2, Death's Gambit. The expansion is called Death's Gambit Afterlife, and it's great. It's just a really good game. I hope more people play it. I did an episode about it on my show. If I can shamelessly self-promote,
I was going to actually mention it. If you did,
I was going to say,
mention it,
if you want to like hear like in depth without spoilers at the beginning, what this game is about, if it sounds interesting to you, go check that out. Because I spent 2.5 hours with a guest talking about this game. I love it. Yeah. Death's Gambit, number 2.
So I will say we will have all the links for Dave's stuff, Tales from the Backlog, in the show notes. Definitely recommend check him out. He does these marathon sessions every week, and in a good way. In a good way. I mean, you really go into depth, and you're not afraid to get into like the nitty gritty for every game you cover. And the titles alone that you've already covered are just like always like choice titles. Even if I haven't played them, the impression I get from listening prior to that spoiler wall is that most of them are worthy of your time. I think the best thing about your show is that spoiler wall. I know that even if it isn't a game I've played, you get into enough so I know if I'll be interested prior to that. And there's a very clear cutoff point, and I appreciate that, man, because we're not always the best with spoilers here. So it's nice to have a show where you could listen safely and not have to worry about that sort of thing.
Exactly.
When a lot of podcasts cover specific games, you got to go in and be ready for it to be spoiled at any time.
Yep. Yeah. And that's why I set the show up that way, because like I would always get this situation where like, oh, I love this podcast, and this week they're talking about Elden Ring, for example, but I haven't played Elden Ring. I don't want to be spoiled, so I can't listen. Oh no. So that's why I do it. And but Death's Gambit, I just feel like this game has gone really underappreciated because there are a lot of indie Metroidvanias out there now, but I think this one is like really, really, really good. I mean, I put it above all the Metroids and all the Castlevanias in my opinion. So yeah,
I've never even heard of this game.
Exactly.
I'm definitely intrigued.
It's very good. It's on Switch. It's like $20 full price.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, Dave, your podcast just continually adds to my backlog. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Because
that's the point of it.
Well. Yeah. Very good. Good pick. So we're on number 2, and my number 2 is Hollow Knight.
Okay.
This game is unparalleled in its like somber beauty. I think, like you said, it just nails that atmosphere so well. I love Hollow Nest, which is the world you're in, the tale of it being a fallen kingdom, and how it's all conveyed in a manner similar to like that less is more approach that Dark Souls takes, is really cool. I think a lot of it is that environmental storytelling, or just picking up and putting the pieces together for yourself, at least to the point that I've gotten the game. The music, top tier, right? Like we could all agree, this is some of the best video game music out there. I think every single track I've heard is just like, it's amazing. It's perfect, like perfect music for this game. Challenging boss fights, like Brian said. Actually, speaking of boss fights, you did a poll, if I'm not mistaken, on Instagram, right? Of which boss in this game was the best. Am I right, Dave? Did you do that?
I think I did ask for people's favorite bosses. Yeah.
Do you know which one had the most votes? Do you remember?
Probably Hornet.
Okay.
Maybe the Mantis Lords.
Yeah, it should have been Dung Defender. I'm just saying.
I love the Dung. I've been going
cool.
around my house for the last 2 months since the last time I played Hollow Knight, just like yelling at my dog, doing the Dung Defender.
Yeah. I love it. I love like when you're leading up to him too, and he's like, you can tell he's like calling you, like, yeah, come on, like, yeah.
Domo.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, it is just so good.
There's a video on YouTube where someone just isolated the Dung Defender's voice lines. You can listen to it without combat noises or anything like that, and it's very funny to me.
Perfect. I will have to check that out for sure, because this is the one that stood out to me.
Hitos come Rumas Fafundo Doma.
Hornet's great though. I can't, looking forward to playing as Hornet.
Someday.
Yeah, so right, so exactly. Eventually, 2023 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that the reason it's number 2, because like I don't want to knock this game, right? But I do feel like I need to justify why it's not number 1, because this game is deserving of a number 1 spot. So it starts a little slow, I feel like.
Definitely.
I just think like the power-ups you get do not come fast enough in that early game. And you really don't get the power-ups that open up a lot to you till you're 4 or 5 hours in at least. I think that's really the only knock I would have against this game, other than the movement speed was a little slower than like Dead Cells, right? Hit that itch of like, oh, you move so fast throughout the environment, and this you really don't. Another reason why I'm looking forward to playing as Hornet is because in this game she moves a lot faster. But I just think that that does get remedied by some of the abilities you gain as time goes on, but your walking speed never really improves. You kind of have to dash all the time, right? Just to get through. So, and that's like, I shouldn't have to press this button, like just make it faster, I know it's a very minor gripe, but like it's all I could find to hold against this game. It is that good. Like if you have not experienced Hollow Knight, it's on Game Pass, it's cheap on the Switch, it's on everything. Like I think it's on PlayStation, right? It was given away for free if you have PS Plus. If you have had it for a couple years and you just add everything and forget, they gave it away for free, I want to say a year or so ago. Yeah, definitely. Like play this game. You will not regret it. Definitely if you find yourself pulling away from it in that early game, push through, and you'll be happy you did.
That was my original time with the game. I actually had it on Steam and I played a couple hours and saw the potential, and people were going nuts about it, but I just I lost interest after a while. And then the Switch really was the key for me to be able to have that handheld, put it up, put it down. That was the way to play it for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, my number 2, my Metroid, and it is Metroid Dread, because this is my favorite Metroid game ever. I had so much fun with it. We, like Ryan said, we did an entire episode on it. I have played all of the other Metroid games, and this one definitely takes the cake for me. We get actually good graphics this time around. So Samus Returns suffered a lot in that realm, even though they have similar gameplay styles. But man, you talk about pointing you in the right direction in a Metroidvania. This game does it so subtly, but it points you where you need to go. And it has a huge map. It's a humongous map, and you could get lost, but the game doesn't let you. It sections off the places so you can't get too far in the weeds of where you're actually supposed to go. I think that the counter mechanic is so much fun to hit that timing. It gives a little more freedom in combat that, yeah, things like Super Metroid, like if you didn't shoot the thing before it got to you, then you're kind of SOL. The movement speed, you want to talk about fast. This definitely has the speed that I can really appreciate. You can zip around a lot better than any other Metroid game. And the story is actually, I know Dave was saying the story is pretty forgettable in these Metroidvanias, but I really liked the story. We get a powerful Samus that we know is there, but don't always get to see. And we get to see a very powerful Samus at a certain point. So I think all of those things just make it a really fun experience. And yeah, my favorite Metroid game, but not my favorite Metroidvania, as we will soon see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that game. It's like modernizing Metroid into fast and fluid and responsive controls. It feels so great to play. It's a lot of fun. It didn't make if they made this game without the Emmys, it would have probably been on my list, but I hate the Emmys so much. It drops it down like 2-letter grades.
Wow.
I think the Emmys are horrible. But I don't want to start a huge debate. I just want to say I think they're terrible. And like on what they just released sales figures like yesterday maybe.
Ooh,
and this
really?
is the best. I think it's the best selling Metroid game ever.
It is.
So
wow.
It makes me excited because like Nintendo has gotten a clear message that like people did like this. It made them a lot of money. Make more Metroid games and don't take 17 years to make the next one or whatever, or the next like original one, But I was just like, man, if they're like, this was super successful, let's double down on the Emmys. I'm going to be really disappointed. So, but it is a really fun game. And the Emmys are not, they're very small parts of the game in the grand scheme of things. So overall, I still really like it.
Yeah. So you want Nintendo to make more, with less Emmys, fewer Emmys.
Yes, preferably 0 Emmys.
So yeah. I also saw those sales numbers. It makes me so happy to see it as the best-selling Metroid. I know that'll motivate Nintendo to make more of these games. Also, very disappointed. Like, what are you people doing out there? Because Mario Party Superstars sold like double the amount of copies, and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which like is a remake of a 15-year-old game, sold like 11 million. And it's like, come on, guys. Like,
yeah,
I get that this is the best-selling Metroid, but it should be better. I don't think you can compare, because Pokemon is its own animal over in the side. But like, I think they duped people into the Mario Party thing, because the first Mario Party on the Switch was like very under supported, and then they were like, okay, take the N64 levels, the ones that everyone loves, take those back, and everyone's like, yes, we'll take those.
And add online. They didn't even have that aspect in the first Switch Mario Party. Like, come on.
Exactly. Good old friendly neighborhood Nintendo.
Well, they've always been so good with their online services, right? I mean,
Good grief. That's
All
my
right.
Metroid Dread, though.
Yeah, good game.
Here we go. This is it. Number ones, Dave. Are you ready?
I am. Let's do it. All right. So my number one is Hollow Knight. I'm glad you guys brought it up before. But when I was making this, when I was making this list, it was like, okay, top 5 Metroidvanias. Number one is so clearly Hollow Knight, and then I'll figure out the rest of the list.
Right.
I think Hollow Knight is the best Metroidvania ever made. It's not a perfect game. We talked about that. Like, go back and get your Geo, fight your ghost. I don't really like that. I don't think there's enough benches in the game. Other than that, I think this game is basically perfect in my opinion. And as far as Metroidvania stuff goes, I think this is a masterclass in designing a map in a way that like it makes you get familiar and do like mental mapping because the areas are really like visually distinct. You know, I know if I go into a different entrance to an area, I remember this area from before because it looks unique compared to the other areas. Mm-hmm. And it's another thing they did really well. And I think Game Maker's Toolkit has a video that kind of explained this, where every section of the map has multiple entrances, except for maybe a couple of them. So like you'll be exploring and you'll do a big loop and then you'll come back and you're like, okay, I know this area.
Very Dark Souls.
Maybe you're pushing into darkness because you don't have a map for the current area, but then you change rooms and you get into a place where you did explore earlier and you do have the map and you were uncomfortable and tense and anxious about what's coming up, but you're in a familiar area again and you're like, okay, I'm safe almost, you know?
It's kind of like Resident Evil with the typewriters and kind of looping back around to areas, and you're like, okay, I kind of recognize this, and
yeah, exactly.
Oh, if I go down this hall, I'm safe again. Yeah,
yeah. And the other thing that I think Hollow Knight does the best is when they make these places where you're locked out of a new area. So a place where you need a double jump or a place where you need the ground pound or something like that. They make those rooms very memorable. So like when I got that ground pound, I immediately was like, okay, I know some places where I can go explore and use this. And that to me is like, again, like I said, the joy is taking a new upgrade, going through the map, unlocking new places, finding new treasure. That's the joy of playing Metroidvanias. And then on top of that, you throw in what I think is some of the best combat in any 2D action game. I mean, it's a clear number one for me, Hollow Knight.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. It's hard to argue against that, but I will.
Yeah.
No, it's not even an argument, really. I think that the one thing that I had another issue with, I forgot to mention, and I think it's more my fault because I don't have like extended play sessions. I just don't really always have the liberty of doing that. You say, oh, it was like very memorable about where to go back to, but because of my limited play sessions, it wasn't for me. It was like I would have a night between that or a day or two, and it was like, oh, like now I got the double jump. Now where the heck was that place? But I agree, it's beautiful. This game is, I've went back and forth between this as my number one so many times because it is so original and well made, and like it's an indie project. It just deserves all the praise in the world. And one thing I actually want to take up with Brian when he mentioned it, you said like, oh, it's very gray and very like, you know, but that's really early on. I think, Dave, you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the different environments. Like there are lush, beautiful environments in this game. And it definitely, like that starting area is very like monotone. But once you break out of that, you get into some places that are just like brilliant colors. And it's right. I agree with them being memorable.
As opposed to like a Metroid, I'm going into cave 1. Now I'm leaving cave 1 and I'm going into cave 2, and it's a cave with a different color palette, but it's still a cave,
right,
you know,
right.
Like in Hollow Knight, everything's underground, but you know, this one has these big mushrooms that you bounce on. And this area this is a very lush, like garden type area. This one is the abyss, you know, stuff like that. Everything's very distinct. Yeah.
No, I agree. It's a great pick, man. Great pick for sure.
I think my only other knock, and this is definitely the Metroidvania that I had the hardest time knowing where to go next. That was in all these other games, I feel like I get signposted enough. This one, I definitely had to walk around a bit more to know exactly what to do next. But that was part of the challenge, so I appreciated it.
It is a kind of like old school philosophy that like Metroid also gets a lot of praise for, like you kind of poke around until you find the path forward. But in Hollow Knight, it's very rarely something as random as like you were supposed to bomb that one block.
Right.
Like it gets into in some Metroid games. In Hollow Knight, it was, I definitely agree. Like you are just kind of like set out on your own, but I think they do guide you really well. And I think they do it better than Metroid games do.
Yeah, I think like in Metroid games, you hear the term sequence break a lot. In Hollow Knight, I think it's so much less of a thing because it is very much like, hey, find your sequence, like find the next power up and use that one till you get more, but yeah, it's awesome pick, for sure. So my number one is Metroid Dread.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So this surpassed Hollow Knight for 3 reasons: the speed of the gameplay, the lack of aimless roaming, and its length. This is more of my old man pick because it's not recency bias by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is very deserving of my number one spot. But I'm at a point where I don't want to roam around a game for hours trying to find out where to go next. And I did do that in Hollow Knight. I enjoyed doing it in Hollow Knight, but I found that was my entire gameplay session because of my limited amount of time. I'd spend 2 hours. I'd get to the point where I'm like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to go. Now it's like super late and I got to go to bed, With Metroid Dread, it, like Brian said, it just pointed you to where you needed to go next. And it did such a good job of doing it. And it also put you in places where you could use your new abilities to find different power-ups or weapons or, upgrades, poke around the environment, if you will. I just think that, it's only 7 to 8 hours, but it knows exactly what to do in those 7 to 8 hours. You talk about the Metroid being like, oh, you're in cave 1, cave 2, cave 3. This game shifted that. The environments are very unique. Every one of them stands out in its own way, and it's beautiful. All the environments were beautiful. You mentioned the spectacle with Ori as well, like with those chase scenes, right? And you said it's a very difficult thing for 2D games, Metroidvania games, to convey. I agree. These cutscenes and boss fights are the epitome of spectacle in a Metroidvania game, right? Like it was like you were saying, Brian, it's like, oh, Samus is a badass. I'm a badass. Like this
and
is
that's
great.
hard to, it doesn't come across super well in a lot of older Metroid games, like how badass Samus is supposed to be.
Right.
But in Dread, you see it, you feel it in those boss cutscenes, especially.
Yeah, no, and the one that comes to mind is when the spire's coming down in the lava, right? And that big dragon's swiping at you, and you're in the foreground, it's coming through the background, and you go on that ride with it. I think you mentioned it during cutscene episode or maybe our Metroid Dread episode, actually, our dedicated Dread episode. And it's just like that was a spectacle. You're watching and you're just that like playing it like, whoa, like what's happening? Yeah. And there's even the first boss fight you get to like shove your blaster in its mouth, like pop, 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 pop. You basically got to do like a headlock. Right. You're giving it a noogie. It's great. I love it. No, this is great. I think I would gladly pick this up and play through it again and again and again. I understand the knock with the Emmys. I didn't find them to be that big of a roadblock, but like no argument here. I could definitely see how like those sections did not appeal to some people. But to me, it added a different element that was a nice reprieve from, the running, gunning speed of it all. I loved this game. Yeah. My favorite Metroidvania game.
Mm-hmm. I think I share the Emmy sentiment from both sides because it was definitely stressful going through those environments, especially towards the end. There were some that were really difficult, but there were enough times where I knew, okay, I'm coming across this. I know the sequence to get through this and it not be too much of a problem. And then when you get the ability to destroy the Emmys and move past them, those were great.
The shift in camera, right? With all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I did agree with the anxiety. I think like a part of my brain likes a game that like where you butt your head up against the wall a few times, right? Like I love Dark Souls. I love Bloodborne. Hollow Knight, it happens here and there. And I love that about the Emmy sections. Like I had to go through them multiple times, but like I never felt sour. I felt like I learned something. I felt like I could do it better, learn a pattern better. And I appreciate games that have that aspect to it in one way or another.
Yeah, I never got that from the Emmys. Like I never felt that the Emmys had a learnable pattern. I whenever I beat an Emmy section, I just felt like I got lucky. Like the last 3 times the Emmy has been coming into this room and then it catches me. This time it didn't come in this room, went in the other room, and then I was able to escape. But what I do think is great is the bosses in Metroid Dread do have very learnable patterns. And I think in most Metroid games, the bosses are like really bad. Like they're kind of just like hit the missile button 96 times in a row, hope you can tank through their hits because the screen's going to be full of stuff.
Right.
But in Dread, they kind of modernized that, like make bosses with learnable patterns with like attacks that have windups so you can, stay alive. And then those counter cutscene sequences are really, really good. So I do agree with that part. The bosses are good.
Yeah, the final boss is I think the perfect example of that.
Yes.
The final boss is so good. Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
Once I learned everything, I didn't get hit for that the time that I beat it.
Right.
Like,
and that's how a boss fight
awesome.
should be. But a lot of older Metroid games, that's not how they go. At least not for me.
Right.
No, I agree.
That is a fantastic pick. I really agree with that one as being a number one. It was my game of the year last year. It continues to be my game of the year from last year, despite Returnal. It's a really close. Like if I had to do it again, that is a hard discussion.
It's been fun, Dave. This is over. List off is ending. List off. Yeah. Do you want to start a podcast, Dave?
Yeah. Can we call it? List off 2?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that all right?
Gosh. Yes. Yeah. Sequels are always better, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, please.
I'm kidding. You know I love you, Brian. Come on.
Love you too, buddy.
Thanks,
But the best Metroidvania that I have ever played, I know Ryan probably already knows it's coming, but it is Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Okay.
This is a magical game. I loved the first game, and when they announced the second game, I knew it was going to be on my radar. You want to talk about it looking good on an OLED Switch? Try playing it in 8K. I have not done that, but I've played it in a very, very high resolution because this was one of the showcase games that I did when I played on my PC, and it looks so gorgeous.
I bet.
On that.
I bet.
Unbelievable. Every image in this game is a beautiful painting, work of art, and it is an emotional game. I mean, I'm not going to give anything away, but you definitely get attached to these characters, and they twist the knife several times. And even the final boss, like there's things to be said there. The final boss is amazing. I hope you play through it, Ryan, and get through that.
Yeah, I was actually going to say to our listeners that, stay tuned for some undetermined time past the February games where I go back to this and I'm like, take back everything I said in our top Metroidvania episode. Right. I love this game, right? Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, man.
The chase sequences, those are a lot of fun. I think they are exercises in brilliant platforming. The abilities that you get in this game, sometimes you're not even touching the ground for like several different iterations of whatever move you're passing off. And the combat, absolutely way more improved in the first game. It's actually fun. That combat was just like a thing that you had to do every once in a while in Ori to get back to platforming. But I very much disagree with anything control wise on this game. I think it has a very distinct style, but it's kind of like, people don't like Halo because of the way you float around, and this game has a similar style to it, where as long as you know where you're going to land, like that in itself is enough to solidify it as a good control scheme for me.
I think with what the two of you are saying, it's really my lack of time in the game then, probably.
I think so too.
Yeah. Ori is definitely more floaty than Samus or a Castlevania person.
Sure.
But you'll definitely get used to it. And like they take that into account with all of the platforming challenges, especially as you get deeper in the game. You will get used to the way that Ori feels, and you'll use it to your advantage because you're platforming in like really big spaces a lot of times in the Ori games. So you'll get used to it for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
You're making me feel bad for saying Samus, though. I'm just saying, Dave. I should say Samus. I'm sorry.
Oh,
because that's probably right, isn't it?
I don't know. Maybe years of the Super Smash Brothers announcer yelling the name has got it stuck in my head.
Yeah, that's true.
I say Samus Aran. So
Yeehaw.
That's right. We are American after all.
But yeah, I can't say enough good things about Will o' the Wisps. I hope that this studio does something. I would take another Ori game, but I think this is a great studio. It's Moon Studio. Mm-hmm. And I think they've really got something, everything about this. I want to get the physical editions of this game because of all of the beautiful artwork. I would hang any picture of this game in my house and just adore it. But yeah, I mean, I kind of said the story, but it really is an emotional tale. And the music, I mean, I can't get by without mentioning the music. Go back to our soundtrack episode and you will definitely agree with me in listening to this. This is absolutely music that I listen to outside of playing the game. And in particular, the final chase boss sequence has some of the best music that I've heard in a video game ever. And it's just a phenomenal piece of artwork that everyone should play. If you play it on Switch, that's a great way to do it. I played it originally on my Xbox One and then graduated into the PC and loved every minute of it. That's Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
What's the little guy's name again, though, that you play as? What's his name?
Ori.
Oh, okay.
Samus.
Okay. Samus. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Good
and the owl's name is Kuro, I believe. Kuro.
That's right.
Okay.
Very good. What's the tree guy's name?
I don't know.
I thought this was your favorite Metroidvania, right? Yeah. Perhaps I'm mistaken.
Gameplay is king. Story, not so much always for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Well, that's gonna do it. Those are our top 5 Metroidvanias. We do have a mission debrief coming up here. Can't remember if we do that before talking to our guest and
we'll talk to Dave a little bit before we get into that.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Are you cool? Are you ready for that, Dave?
Let's talk to Dave.
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead. This is your time to shine, man. If you want to shout out your podcasts.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have 2 shows. The first one is Tales from the Backlog, what we've been talking about throughout in each episode. Like we said, we focus on one specific game, really diving into mechanics, I think is what the show is kind of growing into, spending a lot of time talking about game mechanics. And we also talk about story, of course, too. But the other thing about the show is that there is a very clear no spoiler part at the beginning and a very clear spoiler wall later in the episode. So even if you haven't played that game, even if it's a very story heavy game, there is a non-spoiler part you can listen to and get a feel for what kind of game it actually is. So that is Tales from the Backlog. Once again, Brian and Ryan are on an episode later in February where we're talking about Death's Door. So go check that out.
Yeah,
that was a good episode.
We recommend that episode.
Yeah, that one in particular, recommend that one. Yeah, for sure. So you can find Tales from the Backlog on Instagram at Tales from the Backlog and on Twitter at TFTBL Pod. And I also have another show called A Top 3 Podcast, which is another list podcast, except we only do top 3s because our minds are so small and we don't have room for top 10s. top 5s and even top 10s like we
See,
do.
Okay, so real quick, I know I'm interrupting you. I actually feel the opposite way. I feel like our minds are so small that we are incapable of going into the detail you guys get into.
That's it.
Well, okay, I was like, you would think we're only doing top 3 lists, it should be a short podcast. Nope, it's we go in detail on our picks. So that one is not video game related, even though we do talk about video games sometimes. It's more general things. So particular episodes to check out. I really like our top 3 stand-up comedians episode. That one was a good one. And then we do a lot of good episodes about food. So top 3 fair food is one of my favorite ones that we've done. Top 3, what's another one? Top 3 foods that got us through college. Whenever we're talking about food, that's when we're really in our element, but we do cover all kinds of pop culture as well.
I feel like you can turkey leg can be inserted into both things that you just said.
Yes. If I don't think I would have survived college if I was eating turkey legs all the time.
Maybe
not. But social medias for a top 3 podcast are a top 3 podcast on all platforms, and that's the number 3. So Tales from the Backlog and a top 3 podcast.
And congrats on the 1 year with top 3 podcasts. Very good.
Thanks. Yeah, it's coming up here in February.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, awesome. So I will say that they do an interesting thing on the top 3 where apparently they have if there will be a consensus number 1, they say it's not eligible for the list, which is something Brian and I don't do.
You guys have top 10s. Right. So if it appears, we call it a Michael Bumpus pick for an anonymous football player who's clearly the best player of all time. It's just because like if a choice is going to be on all of our lists, like I'm trying to think of one that we talked about. I can't.
Funnel Cakes was Funnel Cakes part of
Funnel Cakes was not a Michael Bumpus. But if it's going to be on all of our lists, since we only have 3 picks per person, it would just dominate the episode. So we give it a special time at the beginning and we talk about it, and then we move into our lists after that.
Yeah. Very good. Both of them very good podcasts. Definitely recommend you guys go check them out.
Thank you.
I do have a few questions for you, Dave.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite video game that in your whole life?
It changes all the time, as everyone will say, but right now it's Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne's my favorite game.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that game so much.
It's good. It really is. Yeah, wait till Elden Ring comes out.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, true. Anyway, do you have any hobbies outside of video games, just out of curiosity? This is more so like we could converse,
Yeah. Let's see. Like, I like to play guitar from time to time, but I wouldn't consider myself to be very good. It's more like I pick up every couple months and play. I like to go hiking. I live in South Korea, where like the country is like 70% covered in mountains. So like I like to go hiking a lot. Now I have a dog and he likes to go hiking with me. So it's my main other thing that I like to do is go on a hike. Yeah.
Nice. What kind of dog is it?
Yeah.
It's a miniature schnauzer.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. He's out of camera. He's laying down on his bed there, just out of camera here.
Oh,
good boy.
Yeah.
So you said you have a Switch and you have a PlayStation. Is it a PS4 or a PS5?
PS5.
And were either one of those difficult to find in Korea?
The PS5 was, they do signups. It's probably the same as like they'll say like it goes on sale at 5 p.m. on this day, and then they sell out in 2 seconds. There's no queue. It's literally the first people to refresh the website, type in all your information, and hit pay. You get it. There's no queue at all. Wow. So I had enlisted like my wife, I had enlisted my extended family here in Korea, like at 2 p.m., get on these things, hit refresh, see if we can find one. And we were able to get one after a couple months.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it. I always love the PS5 stories, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's got one.
Everyone's got one.
And we're still getting them. That's crazy how we're still so hard pressed to find them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like you with your graphics card too, Brian.
Oh God.
Got to team up. You got to team up to get them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Any other questions?
No, that's it. I'm done.
Okay.
Is that enough? Did I do good?
I have one last question.
Okay.
Dave,
Okay.
what is the correct way, and like objectively correct way, to use a joystick? Is it
Oh
inverted
my god.
or not inverted?
Oh, it's 100% not inverted. Never invert. Inverting is for
ask this question. Brian.
inverting is for sickos.
I'm like
That's right.
1 for 8. I just don't get it.
No, it's
No.
like for the person that on the outside seems completely normal, but on the inside has people in their basement, like in a
Yeah.
hole, talking about lotion.
There are people walking around us that prefer to play with inverted x-axis or
Yeah.
y-axis.
Oh,
Yeah.
X-axis, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah.
So I get that.
If you meet someone who plays with inverted x-axis, run the other way as
I
quickly
might
as
do
you
that.
can.
I might do that in third person. I don't know. No, I think I do it the correct way.
So since
Yeah.
we're going down this road, are you familiar with the character Funky Kong?
Funky Kong?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
What would you describe as his profession?
This is my question, Brian. Do you think Funky
No,
Kong?
you're gonna taint it. You're gonna taint
no,
it some
no,
way.
no.
Hold on. Let me find a picture.
Yeah, just
okay.
find a
Yeah,
picture. That's
yeah,
a
go
perfect
ahead.
thing. Go ahead.
Okay. Funky Kong?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think Funky Kong is a surfer or a biker, like motorcyclist?
I was gonna say biker for sure.
Oh,
What?
Yeah. I don't get any
Dude.
surfers don't wear jorts, dude.
That's what's up, right? They don't wear bandanas around their head either. That's a
Okay,
biker.
but he carries a surfboard around.
Does he?
Yes.
Poser.
He has never been on a bike outside of Mario Kart.
Okay, so outside of this one situation where he was on a bike, he's never been on a bike. That's what we're saying.
Well-
Outside of the situation where he's surfing, he doesn't surf. So
That's right.
there we go.
When he's not on his surfboard on the water, he's not
But
surfing.
Mario Kart
Yeah.
is not his game. He is not in his world.
Whose
in his
game
world,
is Mario Kart? Let's be real.
Mario.
It's got everybody in it. It's
What is
Nintendo
Funky?
Kart now.
What is Funky Kong even from? If he's not from the Donkey Kong 64
Donkey Kong.
collection, I was just looking at a picture.
He's
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country is his first iteration.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's always surfing in those games.
Biker. Totally. All right.
All right.
Now that we've settled it,
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 0 for 2 on Dave here,
Yes.
but that's fine.
the light side has won.
All right. Well, yeah, let's get into this mission debrief then. Here on List Off, we have a mission debrief section where we try to mention maybe something that maybe we didn't have time to mention, maybe a game, book, movie, some other piece of media that we haven't gotten to discuss, but we really want to. So Dave, do you have anything in mind that this could be?
Yeah, I do actually. This just released like 2 days ago, I want to say, and it is a fan game for Bloodborne for PC called Bloodborne PSX, and it is for those who are unaware, it is a remake of the first level of Bloodborne with a PlayStation 1 aesthetic, basically, and they changed the controls to fit a PS1 controller. They changed the UI to look like a PS1 game. And like, I don't have nostalgia for PS1 or N64 really anymore. I actually don't love this aesthetic, but I love it for Bloodborne because I think the kind of like, there's like CRT filters and stuff like that. And it just looks incredible. It looks so good and atmospheric. And I downloaded it last night. I played about an hour and a half of it. It's really good. I was like grinning like an idiot while I was playing it. It's really good. So I recommend. It's free.
Yeah.
It's on itch.io. Just search Bloodborne PSX. You'll find it. It's very good. And yeah, that's what I would love. If you like Bloodborne, or if you have nostalgia for PlayStation 1, Bloodborne PSX, go check that out.
So you made my day, actually, because what I didn't know is that it was only the first level. I thought it was a demake of the entire game, which I'm like, I don't
just
have time
central-
for this right now.
Just Central Yarnum up through the Father Gascoigne fight, as far as I know.
Dude, that's perfect. That's like a few hours.
Yeah.
Great.
So does it feel like Bloodborne when you're playing it, or does it feel like I'm playing with a PlayStation controller?
It does. It has all of the things that make Bloodborne feel like Bloodborne. You parry with your gun. You have your Bloodborne weapons. They have taken away a few buttons from the controller because PlayStation 1 didn't have control sticks, so there's no control stick support. It's D-pad. It's really like playing on a really old PlayStation, but it does feel like Bloodborne, and it is hard because like I have all this muscle memory for Bloodborne, and now I have to learn new controls, and I have to remember like, oh, in this game you have to like press X to center the camera. There's no right stick to rotate the camera and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Z target.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
So it's really, really cool. And as far as I know, it's basically one person who made this with help from friends, I assume. But yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. So how's the parry timing?
It's tough, but I was able to pull it off. And in Bloodborne, if you're able to pull off the parry, you can get that regain and get some of your health back, even if they do tag you a little bit. So yeah, it's I think it's harder, but I don't know if it's harder because like I just played Bloodborne like 3 weeks ago, or if it's because it's actually a little less responsive as a PlayStation 1 action game might be.
Yeah, I was just curious if they kind of got the timing down to Bloodborne, but I guess none of it would really match up animation-wise and stuff too, right?
Yeah, it's not as precise, but it is there. You can do it.
Mm-hmm. So the developer is Lilith Walther. Yeah, and I'll actually put the link to the itch.io. Is it itch.io? Is that what that is? I'm sorry.
I have always said itch.io, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll put the link in the show notes, so if you are interested, boom, it's right here for you. Yeah. So I think that's awesome. Thanks for mentioning it. Very timely pick too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So my mission debrief is no clip documentaries. There are no clip documentaries on YouTube. These guys do major release after major release after major release, and they are so good every time. But specifically, there's one I want to talk about. Dave, are you familiar that we had a wager based off of our predictions for 2021? Whoever got the most correct, the other one had to play a game of the winner's choice, right?
Right. Yep.
So Brian has to play Demon Souls, the Demon Souls remake for PS5.
Yes.
I know. I'm very much looking forward to this. So Brian, the documentary I want to suggest to the listeners and to you specifically is the making of that Demon Souls remake. It is an awesome look into Blue Point and their process and how they were able to data mine the original Demon Souls, the troubles they had, the information that just wasn't there anymore, the things they improve, and how careful they are with those improvements to preserve the original game and some of those elements, yet like make it their own. It is just such a tightrope to walk with such a beloved thing, and they just did a perfect job of it. And hearing their insight into it is awesome. I think it's a perfect documentary to get you pumped about playing it.
Okay.
So I would recommend watching this prior to playing it. I know we're probably a few months away from that happening, but I really want to set you off on the right foot here.
Sure.
And I think it also highlights the things that you should pay attention to while you're playing, the things that you wouldn't normally pick up with the sound, or things that happen in the environment, or some of those haptics and things like that. it really does a good job of setting you up for the game, as far as like going in with the right mindset, going in with an appreciation for the development process, and going in, and it'll highlight some things that maybe you wouldn't notice if you played without watching it. So yeah, definitely all no clip documentaries are awesome, but the Demon Souls remake one for the listeners and for you, my man.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it's real good. And also, like, we talked about Death's Door on my show. That No Clip has a good kind of shorter episode for as far as their documentaries go about the making of Death's Door. And yeah, No Clip's great. Every time a new No Clip thing comes up, it's like I tell people, like, I don't watch a whole lot of movies, and it's because I would rather watch No Clip talk about the making of a game for an hour and a half than a lot of movies. They just do such a good job.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've caught a couple. I think I did the Horizon one. I was really interested in that. And I think they did a Hades one too, or Supergiant maybe in general.
They did like a 6-part series on Hades. It was a long one.
Yeah,
that's wild. Yeah, well, I'm kind of in the same boat as Dave, and this goes into my mission debrief. This is one that Ryan has mentioned before, but my wife and I actually caught the first episode of Station 11 because heard some recommendations Ryan included here, and I am intrigued for sure.
Right.
So this is the sell sheet on this is not enticing at all. It's a story about people in a post-apocalyptic environment because of a flu. So not something that any of us really want to endure right now, but it doesn't seem, I don't know enough. I've only seen the one episode, but it's been intriguing enough. Don't know which directions they're going, if they're going to cover, some of the things that have happened that we are aware of in our own situation, but it's got a lot of mysterious elements. There's a lot of time hopping and a lot of interesting characters. So the mystery is definitely what's propelling me to want to keep watching. It's a very stressful show as well.
Yeah, given the times, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that, and just like thinking about people and what they're going through in any of these situations. But it's still just that mystery is so intriguing at this point. Definitely want to keep going with that. So that's Station 11. We're going to keep up with it.
Great. I'm really happy that you gave it a shot, man.
Yeah. More Ryan recommendations. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
Isn't it such a rare and beautiful thing when you recommend something to someone and they actually watch it and they actually enjoy it? It's
I'm literally playing Hollow Knight because of you, Dave.
Yeah.
Like, I played Hollow Knight because of you. So yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Warms up my cold and dead heart. Amazing.
hardest thing still is getting someone to read a book, though, because that is an investment. And yeah. But
we say that it's an investment, but is it really a bigger investment than playing 25 hours of Hollow Knight?
Not really.
No.
But interactive gameplay.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do it for our top 5 Metroidvanias here. Dave, so grateful for you coming on the show and talking with us. And I'm eager to keep hearing your podcast, and love what you do. So keep it up for sure.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great coming on the show. You guys know, like, I do the top 3 podcasts. I love lists. I'm a list maker. Even on Tales from the Backlog, we do lists in the spoiler section from time to time. So this has been awesome. Good to talk Metroidvania with you guys. And the episode you guys are on about Death's Door is coming out soon. Everyone check that out. You guys, one or both of you are welcome back on my show anytime.
Cool.
Always love talking games with you guys.
And vice versa, man. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun doing this. I know we got off topic, but like, man, good jokes, good times. Like this is the best, guys.
For sure. It is.
It really is. Yeah.
And we're gonna say we're gonna keep it going next week. And you wanna tell the folks what our next episode is?
Sure. I'm actually really excited for this one. We kind of alluded to it when we did the top 10 game trailers, but next week we are covering the top 10 game commercials, which are not trailers. So look forward to this one. I think everybody has a few in mind that'll probably be on our list, right?
Yeah.
We would like to play.
Yeah, exactly. That's a pretty good one, actually. Yeah, those 2 dudes roll up everywhere.
Yeah,
And they actually got everybody to buy a Wii too, so it worked. It worked.
I don't know if there are any commercials in nursing homes, but that should have absolutely been one of the things that they did at a certain point.
Yeah. God, nursing homes don't allow TVs. It's so sad. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's going to do it for the show then. Thank you so much, everyone. And thanks for listening and watching. And we will see you next week. Bye.
See you later.